Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to introduce constructors. We are going to see what is a constructor, how to invoke a constructor, and what are the different types of constructors available in Java. So first you are going to see what is a constructor. A constructor is a member method having same name as that of the class and is used to initialize the instant variables of the object. So it is same like your functions. Okay. Only difference is it will have the same name of the class. Okay. Normally functions doesn't have the same name of the class. It has different names like input, then calculate, and then display. But constructor you can easily identify by looking at the constructor name. It will be the name of the class. Okay. And also it is mainly used to initialize the instance variable. So if you create any data members, the data members can be initialized using the constructors given. Now we are going to see the features of constructor. The constructor is defined in the with the same name or the class name. So that's what we discussed just now. It is used only to initialize the data members. So you have different data members available. You will have variables of different types can be initialized using constructors. It is automatically called while creating an object. That is the advantage of constructor. Normally, if you want to call a function, you have to call it using the object. Say like if you create an object OB, then you can call the functions input by using the statement ob.input, ob.calculate, ob.display. So you have to use the object to call. But here, if you are going to call a constructor, you don't need to specify anything like that. It automatically calls. Okay, you can say automatically it invokes the constructor while you're creating the object itself. So we'll be seeing that later in this video. The constructor needs no return type. So that is another difference. Normally, if you have a function, you will have a return type. It will be either void, it will be either it may be integer, it may be boolean, it may be double. Okay, it returns some value. Okay, if it doesn't return value, you will specify some return type like void. But constructor doesn't have any of these. Okay, the constructor is always public, so you cannot use other two keywords like protected or private for constructors. And it is overloaded automatically. So we will be discussing about constructor overloading in different video. So we will go on to the next one. Invoking a constructor. How to call the constructor? The constructor can be invoked at the time of creating the object of a class. So what is the meaning of creating an object? So you can see a syntax here. Class name, object name, equal to operator, new operator, and then constructor. So you can see constructor within. After that you will have open and close parenthesis and then semicolon. So example is here, student is the class name, OB is the object name, equal to operator, and again new operator, and then again you can see the same name that is given for the class. So student is the class name, so constructor name also will be student. Then an open and close parenthesis and semicolon. So you can see this. So this statement, when you type it in a program, automatically the constructor gets executed. So this is what we call it as invoking a constructor. Now we are going to see what are the different types of constructors available. Constructor is of four types. First one is default constructor, second one is non-parameterized constructor, and third one is parameterized constructor, and then finally you have copy constructor. So you are going to see one by one. So first you are going to see what is default constructor is. A constructor that is used to initialize the instant variable with default initial values is known as default constructor. You have different default values available. For integer you have 0, for double you have 0.0, and for character you have open and close single quotes, for string you have open and close double quotes. So these are some of the default values available. So if you are using default constructor, automatically initialize the instance variable, that is data members, with the default values. When no constructor is defined in a program, the compiler creates a constructor on its own. So this default constructor, why the name came is, it is by default created by the compiler. If you don't specify any constructor in the program, automatically compiler itself will create its own constructor and it will execute it. That means it will initialize the data members. As soon as an object of class is created, it is uses this constructor to initialize the instance variable. So as soon as you create an object, if it doesn't specify the constructor also, the compiler automatically creates its own constructor and automatically it initializes the instance variable. So you are going to see an example here. You can see a class student and then you have some instance variable. So roll number is of integer type and name is of string type and average is of double type. So 3 variables here. Okay, you can call it as instance variable or data members. Then you have a function called display. You can see the return type is there. So if you have return type, it is not a constructor and it doesn't have the class name. So it is not a constructor, it is normal method. So void display and you are displaying all the data members, that is instance variables. Now in my main method, what you are going to do is you are going to create an object. So student OB equal to new student. So student is the class name, OB is the object. Then you have equal to operator and then you have new operator which creates an object, right? And then you have a constructor, okay, student open and close bracket semicolon. Now this statement will automatically invoke constructor, but constructor is not seen in this program. Okay, no constructor has been defined here. So what happens is automatically the Java compiler will creates its own constructor and define the variable, instance variable with its own default values. Now to test it, we are going to display it. So ob.display will display this, it will invoke this method, display method, which will display the roll number, name and average on the screen. So you can see here in the output screen, it shows the default values. Roll number is integer type, so it's showing 0, and name is string type, so it's showing null, and average is double type, it's showing 0.0. These are the default values for the instance variable given. Next is non-parameterized constructor, a constructor which initializes the instance variable of an object with the definite value readily available. So either you can give your own values or you can assign with the default values. So main use of constructor is to initialize the data members, okay, instance variable. So you can either give the default values to start with, or you can always give a defined value. So you can give a value so that will be used in the program. Now the objects can be created in 2 ways. One is created by the compiler by itself. If you don't create an object, the compiler automatically creates it. Second type is you are creating, that is the user creating the object. So you are going to see one by one. First one is first program. You are not going to use the main method. Okay, the same program we use. Only difference is you are having a constructor here. You can see that the difference, function has a return type but constructor does not have a return type, and you can see the name of the class and the constructor name is same. So if you see this, you can define this, this is a constructor, right? And it is used to initialize the data, that is the instance variable. So you got 3 instance variable here. You are just defining with some default values, okay? So you can use same default value that is given by the Java, that is 0 and the open and close double quotes and 0.0 for double, or you can give some values like this, okay, which will be accepted, and you are going to display it. Now here you can see that no main method is used, okay, you are not creating any object, you are not calling the display method. So now how can you execute this program? Just compile this program, come out of that and right click on the icon and then click on new student. You won't see void main here, you have to just click on new student. Once you click on new student, you will see a message box, or you can call it as an input box. You can see on top create object, okay. So here you are going to create an object here. You are not going to specify anything. You can see by default student 1, okay, that is object has been created. Just click OK. You are not going to do anything, just click OK here. Now below the screen you can see a red color box, that is red color icon appears, okay, which indicate it is a constructor, okay. Now right click on this image, okay, that is the icon, and then select the only method we have here. The only method we have is display. Just click on display. Now you can see the output screen which opens, that's a terminal window, that is it shows you the values you stored in constructor, right. So this is how you can execute the program without creating an object. Second method is you are going to execute it by creating an object. Okay, the object is created by the programmer, so everything is same except that you are going to create a main function, and then you can do student OB equal to new student. So this will create an object. So once you create an object, automatically constructor get executed. So constructor, once it gets executed, all the data members will have some values here. Okay, next line ob.display, it will invoke this method and which will display the whatever values which is stored in the constructor. So you can see the output screen on the terminal window. Next is parameterized constructor. It is used to initialize the instance variable of the object with the values provided through the parameter list. So it is a little different from the normal default constructor or non-parameterized constructor. Here it has some values, parameters. Okay, so these parameters are passed to the constructor, same like methods, right? You are going to pass some values through the parameters, okay, which you already discussed in previous videos. So that the method will accept the values and will be stored in used to store the initial values. Okay, for that is to initialize the data members. The parametric values passed while creating an object. So these values will be passed when you automatically create. So when you create an object, automatically it creates a constructor which will pass the values to the constructor, and where it will be looking like same we did it for the functions. Okay, now you are going to see that with an example. So you have taken the same student example, but only difference is you can see the constructor with parameters. So you can see integer r, string n, double a. So you got three variables. Okay, you can call it as parameterized variables, or you can see local variable, which is used to initialize the data member. So you can see data member roll number equal to r. That is a local variable which has been, or you can see parameterized variable which has a value, and then second variable name equal to n, that will be passed here, and then finally you have average equal to a. So these three value has to be passed. So whatever value you pass it to this parametric variables will be stored into the data members. Okay, and then you're going to display the output. Now you're going to do the same process. You're going to right click, that is compile this program. Okay, without method. This is created, the object is created by the compiler. You're not going to create anything. Okay, that is the first method. Okay, so you're going to right click on the icon and click on new student. You can for a change you can see some variables here, whatever you created here. So just click on it. You can see a message box with some extra variables. There is extra boxes available. Okay, and here you can see new student with parameters. You can see open parenthesis and close parenthesis, and here you can see what type of value you have to enter, right? Say if it is integer, you have to type an integer value. If it is string, you can see second one is string. You have to enter string with double quotes. Okay, inside double you have to type double quotes, open and close double quotes. Inside that you have to type some value, and then double you should have some decimal value, right? 99.6. And then after that you click OK. Once you click OK, you can see the red color icon will appear at the bottom of the screen, left hand side. Right click on it and then click on display, which will display the terminal window with the output screen. That is the output what has been stored. That is the values whatever you passed through this object will be stored into the instance variable that will be displayed on the screen. Next one, the same process here, but object created by the programmers. Same thing here. Here suppose in your program they may ask you some programs in board examination where you have to create an parameterized constructor and pass the value and initialize the data members. So this is how you are going to pass the parameters. So here student OB equal to new student, open parenthesis, first value you should match, right? First value is integer value that will be stored in R. Okay, so 101 is stored in R. Then you can see second is a string variable. Then you are going to send a string value. So blue J will be stored in N. And then finally you have double A. So you has a number with decimal digit that will be passed and it will be stored in. So you should not change the order. You should be matching, right? So if you change the order, then you know that there will be an error. You don't match it properly. So after that you are going to display it. Now you are going to see, just execute this, execute the main function. You can see the values are stored into the data members which will be displayed on the screen. Now finally you have a copy constructor, a constructor that is used to initialize the instant variable of an object by copying the initial values of the instance variable from another object. So that means you are going to create two objects here. Okay, first object you are going to create you are going to pass some instance variables, that is you are going to initialize some instance variable, and you are going to create another object. You are going to use only the object there. Okay, so this is not it is out of the scope of your ICSE level syllabus, so you are not going to discuss anything about it. You just know what is this constructor, copy constructor is, that's enough. Okay, it is used to initialize the instance variable from another object. So you already created one object, you are going to use that object to initialize the second object. So automatically what happens, it will have the same value. So two objects with same value will be created, right? So that's all about this video. We will meet you in the next video. Till then, thank you.